Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second annual Jam Sports Pro Sports Year Review for 2018. We're your host, Max Danielsen.
And I'm Jared Hedges.
Jared, 2018 has been a huge year all around. There's a lot of things that we have to go talk about. A lot of things have also happened for Jam Sports. We'll get into those throughout the segment. But Jared, overall, how's been your 2018 so far? Especially, being us two big sports fans. How would you rate this year as compared to last year?
Well, this year going off with my favorite team, the Blackhawks, is not going very good.
We'll get into that later.
Not going very good, but other than that, everything's going fine.
Well, that's good. Jared, I think it's time to kick it off, no pun intended here, with the NFL. Now, this year, the Philadelphia Eagles won Super Bowl 52 by the score of 41-33 against the New England Patriots. The MVP for that game was Nick Foles. The man who came out of nowhere, really. He's been a backup quarterback all of his career, had a very solid game. But then really this year, the Eagles have kind of been on the downturn. What's really the main cause of that, Jared?
Well, Carson Wentz having to adapt because, before he tore his ACL, basically blew his knee out, he was a mobile quarterback. Mm-hmm. And the Eagles were kind of cautious, especially with him just coming off of a serious leg injury. They did not want him to run the ball.
I mean, just seeing all that happen, it doesn't really seem like they lost anyone either this offseason, really. And then they just had a terrible season. And we'll get into that in a little bit about the NFC East and what has been going on with that. But then a big free agency signing that happened this year was Kirk Cousins going to the Minnesota Vikings. That year was a 3-year, $84 million contract. The question, Jared, with this season panning out for the Vikings, is this a dumb move?
They needed a quarterback, and Kirk Cousins was the best one available, and they had to have gotten him. Maybe this year it doesn't go out great.
But do you think they overpaid for him? That's the question.
No, it's quarterback's money. They had to do it to get him.
I mean, to be honest, me personally, I don't think Kirk Cousins is worth that much. Maybe, even so, here's the thing about free agency, and you can even take, for example, Seattle Seahawks, right? Russell Wilson, what happened? They signed him to a mega extension. Look where they are now. They lost that Super Bowl contending team, and now they've gotten rid of almost everyone, besides, of course, Russell Wilson. So then going on, Patrick Mahomes for the Kansas City Chiefs having what I think is going to be an MVP season. He's had over 4,500 yards and 45 touchdowns. Now, he's also had 11 interceptions this year. But then another MVP candidate that we've been talking about is Drew Brees. He's had over 3,600 yards, 31 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions. Jared, the question is, who is the MVP for this league?
It should be Drew Brees, but ultimately I think Pat Mahomes is going to end up winning it given his stats that he has. I mean, he's got 4,500 plus yards passing, and Lord knows if he could even get to 5,000.
Now, the question, though, is can Patrick Mahomes be technically still considered a rookie? Because he only appeared in, one game last year? So, I tried to look up some rules. It didn't really say anything specifically, but would you still consider him a rookie?
Well, it's really different for every league if you think about it. But the NFL has it, based off of Madden. That's what I go by.
All right. Yeah, the Madden specialist right here.
The year you're drafted, that's considered your rookie year, regardless of if you play a single down or not. They count that as your rookie year. And then the next year, they count it as your second year.
Your sophomore year, as they call it. Now, we'll get into a little bit more. There is some rookie controversies that we'll get into later on when we go to the NBA. But then going on with Le'Veon Bell. Now, of course, I actually had to draft him for fantasy. I had the second pick. I didn't think he was going to do this. He held out the entire season, Jared. The entire season. He forfeited all of his contract, and he didn't even get to play this year. Even though he said he wanted to be a Steeler, but then he says, no, I don't really want to play this year. The question, Jared, though, is where do you think he's... Because, to be honest with you, James Connors filled the role of Le'Veon super well this year. He's had a phenomenal season. Now, of course, at the end of the season, he did have an injury, but overall, he filled the shoes that Le'Veon left him. The question, what team really is going to want Le'Veon? Because do you really want that type of cancer in your locker room, or are you just going to take him to have just that elite player?
Well, especially with taking a year off, I don't know anybody who would want him. I mean, I think that somebody's going to want him, but he's not going to get the money that he wants. I mean, the Steelers could also, I don't think they're going to do it, but they can franchise him again, but for $25 million. But I don't know. Maybe, I don't know a team off of my head that needs a running back that he would go to. That'd be a good team.
I mean, Green Bay does need a running back, but at the same time, I don't think
they're not going to offer
they
him that
would.
money.
They wouldn't offer him, and I agree with you. I don't really know a team that would really want him, especially him taking off a year and just kind of the whole drama surrounding that. I don't know if any team or any team with a big following would really want that. So the Los Angeles Rams, the Chargers, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the New Orleans Saints have been all top teams in the NFL this year. But the Dallas Cowboys have also been a pretty nice team this year. And I was reading an article recently, and the question was, are they contenders or are they pretenders? Because keep in mind, the NFC East, this is where we're going to get to talk about this, the teams in the NFC East, they really have been living down to expectations. The Eagles, take for example, right? Super Bowl champions, they're supposed to be at the top of the standings, and now they are, what, third in the division?
Yeah, and then, the division, you look at it, you think, oh, the Philadelphia Eagles, they should be at the top, or pretty darn close to it. The Giants, I wasn't so sure about that they're going to be great, even though they did draft Saquon Barkley. The Redskins is just, they had horrible luck.
Yeah.
Having Alex Smith, their quarterback, who may not even play another game, compound leg fracture, and then their backup quarterback, Colt McCoy, also broke his leg.
Now, when Alex Smith got injured, I think I'm the only one that didn't know Colt McCoy was still in the NFL. He is a journeyman for sure. Then we go on for the Dallas Cowboys, right? Amari Cooper, they get him for a first-round pick, and as well, Khalil Mack was traded as well from the Raiders. Both of them have impacted their team so much. Khalil Mack has upgraded that defense that the Bears... Now, the Bears going into the season had a pretty nice defense, but having Khalil Mack, who is a once-in-a-generation type player, to be on your defensive line is in itself an amazing feat. And as well, Amari Cooper adding a lot of depth in the wide receiver position for the Dallas Cowboys. And speaking of wide receivers, Adam Thielen for the Minnesota Vikings, he's had a pretty nice season as well. 105 receptions, over 1,200 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Does that make him in the ruling for MVP? Or I remember you were talking to me a little bit earlier that the MVP race has become a quarterback race.
It's pretty much now, there has been some times where, the Heisman has gone to running backs. But if you think about it, the Heisman and the MVP has most of the time always gone to a quarterback. Quite frankly, it should be in the candidates for the MVP. It's going to be Pat Mahomes and Drew Brees for sure. But the third guy that they're going to have, is it going to be another quarterback? Is it going to be Phillip Rivers? Or are you going to throw like a guy like Adam Thielen or Khalil Mack in the candidates?
I really think Adam Thielen deserves a lot of credit, and he's not really getting that much credit. Besides in fantasy, of course, everyone wants him.
He's doing good on my team.
And speaking of which, how about another guy that came out of the blue, George Kittle for the San Francisco 49ers? I picked him up in the middle of the season, and he's been doing phenomenal for me. But the question, Jared, I think everyone wants to know, especially with this season being an up-and-down season, who do you see in the Super Bowl?
For the AFC, I have the Chargers. I'm not 100% sold on anybody in the NFC.
Now, can we both agree that it's probably going to be a Chiefs and Chargers AFC game?
Yes. Now, my whole thing with the Chiefs is, they have a great offense, but their defense is terrible.
Think about that Rams game. I think it was the most high-scoring game in Monday Night Football history, but at the same time, both teams have pretty bad defenses, the Rams and the Chiefs. So, who do you think is then for the NFC? Because I personally think if the Chiefs can do what they've done all season, play around Patrick Mahomes, put up big numbers, I think they will. But if they fold like they've done a couple games this season and their defense can't hold them, I definitely think the Chargers have a great shot.
Yeah, and then, with the other conference, I just don't know with the Rams. The Rams haven't been playing too terribly great, especially Jared Goff. The Saints, if I had to, I don't even feel confident about it, is I would probably take the Saints and Chargers. But a team that could be a dark horse candidate is the Chicago Bears. You look
100%.
You look at the way their defense is playing. They played good all year. And then Mitchell Trubisky, who's been a great fantasy quarterback
Personally,
as well.
I think he can be an elite quarterback in this league.
He will. He's going to be a franchise quarterback. He's the first, if you think about it, the first real quarterback that the Bears have had since Tim McMahon in the 80s.
And especially even the defense, we remember the old school Bears defense, the team that people feared to play. This Bears team that we're seeing now has become that team once again. I personally think that they can be a dark horse. I wouldn't be surprised if the NFC Championship game is between the Bears and the Saints. So stick around. We're going to go to a commercial break. Just hear a word from our amazing sponsors. When we come back, we are going to be discussing all NCAA related, of course, that being football and basketball. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Hey, this is Jason with Lacrosse Monkey. Are you looking for a place to shop for your next athletics season? Monkey Sports is here to help. Whether you're looking for baseball, hockey, or lacrosse gear, if you can dream it, we got it. We provide both the latest and best in the market equipment for your athlete. Stop by and visit us down at US 75 and off of Bethany Drive. Monkey Sports in Allen, a proud sponsor of Jam Sports.
The Lynch Locker, the official spirit store at Bishop Lynch High School, has everything you need to make your inner fire happy. They offer a large variety of Bishop Lynch spirit wear, including Nike, Champion, and Under Armour items. You'll also find Friar-themed gifts and school supplies. Drop in and shop during regular school days as well as select games and special events. Follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for updates on hours, new merchandise sales, and promotions. You can also order online at thelynchlocker.org. The Lynch Locker, show your Friar spirit.
And welcome back, as now we are going to be moving into NCAA football. Of course, to start out the year for football, Alabama beat Georgia in the national championship for the college football playoff by the score of 26-23. Overall, a pretty nice game. Not really surprised that Alabama won. They've really turned this whole team into a dynasty almost, especially when Nick Saban's taken over.
Well, I remember when Alabama used to not be the household name, but really it's been really for the past 10 years if you think about it, because I remember when Alabama first started coming up was around the time that Tim Tebow was there at Florida.
The good old Tebow days. And he's not even in football anymore, he's in baseball.
And then in this year's college football playoff, you got the teams of Alabama, of course, as always.
No,
and then
it's almost a given every single year they're going to make the college football playoff.
The Clemson, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma. And then some big news came out of Columbus, Ohio over the past month. Urban Meyer is going to retire as head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Now, Jared, what do we know about Urban Meyer that he's done before?
He did the same thing at Florida where he said, I'm done coaching. And, he does have a health issue in his head, like the stress factor of coaching college football.
Well, I would definitely imagine it's even a stressful job. I mean, think about it.
All the recruiting,
teaching these college kids, because you also have to keep in mind these are still kids. These aren't professional athletes. But then I kind of want to go back one more time to that playoff picture of Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and OU. Now, there's a lot of controversy of who was going to get that fourth spot, if it was going to be OU, who actually got the spot, or if it was going to be Georgia. Now, what's your opinion on it? Because I think OU deserved it.
Now, Georgia certainly made a great case, but OU beating Texas, the only way that OU got in was because that Georgia lost, but they beat Texas. That was the only reason that they were there.
Now, and then going into the bowl games, so we have Alabama versus OU in the Orange Bowl, Clemson versus Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl here in Dallas. We have in the Fiesta Bowl UCF versus LSU, Ohio State and Washington in the Rose Bowl, in the Sugar Bowl, Texas and Georgia. That's going to be one heck of a game right there. And then in the Peach Bowl, Michigan versus Florida. Now, Jared, I think what we did last year was we gave our predictions with the big top 6
bowl
games. Yes, thank you for completing my sentence there. So I think, why not carry on the tradition? So, starting off with the Orange Bowl, who do you think is going to win, Alabama or OU?
Easy. Alabama. And I do see that
I have an upset. Upset alert, ladies and gentlemen. I am saying that OU, now probably by the time that we release this, they're already going to know the score. But here's the reason why I think OU's going to win, right? Think about the one time that Alabama got beat. Who do they get beat by? Clemson. Who is their quarterback? Deshaun Watson. He's a mobile quarterback. Who does OU have? Kyler Murray. What is he? A mobile quarterback. Now, the only question that I have that might result in this as a cold take is OU's defense. That is my only concern.
That gives it away for me right there.
Well, but you also have to think about this, right? Being Texas, the OU defense had a stellar game. There was one play where Texas was at the goal line, and Texas left the C gap wide open, and they got the safety. But that's just one of the plays. If they can play like how they played against Texas, I definitely can see them beating Alabama. Now, going on to the Cotton Bowl, Jared, that's going to be played here in Dallas, I have Clemson winning. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I've got Clemson as well. And then the Fiesta Bowl, UCF, who has not lost a game in 2 years, is going up against LSU. I've got LSU.
Okay. So here's my thing, right? I think personally LSU is the better team? Yes. The question, but I really want UCF to win. Because, here's the thing. UCF gets a lot of discredit for being in a weak conference. If they beat LSU, this means that they are truly a team that could be contending to be one of the top teams. They're number 9, I think, right now in the entire college football. But the problem is, a lot of people discredit that because they're in a weak conference. If they beat LSU, that's going to show that they're a pretty nice firepower school. But if they lose, then the discreditation continues. Now, going on to the Rose Bowl, you have Ohio State versus Washington. I personally think Washington's going to win it. This is honestly, of all the 6 bowls, this is the one that I care for the least. I just don't see it being that big of a bowl. I think it's still a very big bowl. Of course, you have 2 great teams, Ohio State and Washington, but compared to the other ones, I think this is one that is not as the least of importance out of the 6.
Well, honestly, what they do is the committee will choose the different bowls to represent the semifinal games. Last year, I believe it was the Rose Bowl who was one of them. I can't remember who the other one was. But like next year, for example, it won't be the Cotton Bowl will not be a national.
Yeah, usually it's never been.
And I've got Ohio State defeating Washington in Urban Meyer's last game coaching.
Quote unquote.
Yeah.
So then going on to the Sugar Bowl, I think Texas is going to beat Georgia. Just seeing what they've done, especially being OU in the Red River rivalry. And then finally, I have for the Peach Bowl, Florida beating Michigan. Now, the only reason I have that is because I personally think Michigan is an overhyped program.
And you know, for me, for the Sugar Bowl, Georgia held the best team in the world for the whole game. Georgia's going to, not only do I think they're going to beat Texas, they're going to beat them really bad.
They're going to cream them, basically,
Yes.
You're saying. Okay.
And then in the Peach Bowl, I do, because I don't know, Florida's a decent team. I know Michigan got destroyed by Ohio State, but I will take Michigan.
All right, so that'll be interesting. Then going on to basketball. Now, this first topic we're going to talk about, Jared, is the biggest moment for definitely this year. But not only that, but the biggest moment in college basketball history. Number 16, UMBC upset number 1 Virginia. Now, you would think this would have to be a pretty big game, like buzzer beater. No, not even close. The final score was 74-54. This was the first time that a number 16 seed beat a number 1 seed. It honestly, I watched the game, and it was a pretty nice game overall. It seemed like Virginia was out of it, and UMBC was just on their game that day. And then going on for the championship, Villanova defeated Michigan by the score of 79-62. Now, a personal guy that we got to really look out for that was in that game was Dante DiVincenzo, who scored 31 points and as well grabbed up 5 boards, and he won the tournament most outstanding player. Because of that, he was drafted number 17 by the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, do you think he should have been drafted that high, or do you think he should have been drafted a little bit lower? Because honestly, before that championship game, his stock was probably in the early second round. Don't get me wrong, still a phenomenal player, but he was never projected as a first-round pick before then.
Honestly, if I was Dante, I would like where I was picked.
Well, of course you're going to like where you're picked. I'm saying, should he have been drafted that high?
Now, I wouldn't think so, no. Because I would say just because like a tournament reflects on who you are as a player, I don't believe in all that. Like, he had a great tournament, don't get me wrong, but it's just, could that have just been he was just on a good stretch?
Mm-hmm.
Or is he actually a good player?
I mean, he's actually been doing pretty decent for the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, of course, right now he is on assignment in the G League with the Wisconsin Herd. And then going on to March Madness, still talking about that, Loyola Chicago, Cinderella story run. The train that couldn't, as you could say. This team was phenomenal all throughout. Unfortunately, they lost in the Final Four by the score of 57-69. Overall, pretty good run by them.
They were never projected to win any of the games that they played in.
Oh, heck no.
And some of the games that they won pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the ride that, Sister Jean.
Oh, we forgot to mention her. Everyone loves Sister Jean. Everyone loves Sister Jean.
Especially,
she became a national treasure. And I believe we were talking earlier in our March Madness recap. There was a picture of the last time Loyola was in the national championship, or in the Final Four, and we put it on the screen versus what she looks like now. Of course, a very long time from that. But really, this year, all of college basketball is centered around two guys. That's R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson. The question is, we know they're going to be the number 1 and number 2 picks in the draft, but which one is going to be first?
It's going to be Zion without a doubt. I mean, he's talked about. Every time I'm watching SportsCenter or something like that, he is always being talked about. And then R.J. Barrett's after. Mm-hmm. It's always Zion first and then R.J.
Now the question is Duke the better team or is Gonzaga the better team right now?
I know there's still a lot of ball left to be played, but...
Well, I mean, Jared, we got till March.
Well, as far as I'm seeing, I think Duke's got more the talent, and especially the more the season goes, I think the more chemistry that RJ and Zion will have with everybody else, and I think they'll ultimately...
Now, I did see there was a play. Zion had a fast break. RJ was trailing behind him. Instead of Zion taking it for himself, lobbed it up to his teammate. That just shows kind of that chemistry that these two guys have built. Do you think they're going to win? They could win the March Madness tournament, or do you think it's going to be like a couple
absolutely. I think they can. They can win
really?
it. Yeah.
Okay. You don't think there's going to be some type of upset in between?
Well, I mean, there always is. It's never.
Well, yeah. Take a look. Virginia, right there.
Okay, I'll put it this way: they should.
They should.
There.
Okay. Honestly, I think they will too. Now, going on for the UNC coach, a legend. I think we could all say. He's a Hall of Famer, 2007 Hall of Fame inductee. Roy Williams, he has been the coach of the team since 2003. They extended him 8 more years. In his time, he's made 9 Final Four appearances, 3 national championships, and has a total record of 848 wins and 228 losses. Jared, is he considered one of the... Now, I personally say he is, but is he considered to be one of the best coaches of all time in college basketball?
Without a doubt. Number 1 being Coach K.
Oh.
And then maybe behind, he may even be the second. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you think about Jim Boeheim, but yeah, he's been a great coach. He's done it for a very long time.
Well, if we're debating between those 3, do you think he's at least top 3, or could he be top 5?
Without a doubt, no.
Top
he's
3.
top 3,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, without a doubt.
So we are going to take another commercial break. When we come back, we are going to do a memorial for all those who have unfortunately passed away this year in the sports world, and then we're going to be getting on to the hot seat, I guess, as you could say, for this entire year in review with the NBA. Stick around. We will be right back.
Hey, this is Jason with Lacrosse Monkey. Are you looking for a place to shop for your next athletics season? Monkey Sports is here to help. Whether you're looking for baseball, hockey, or lacrosse gear, if you can dream it, we got it. We provide both the latest and best in the market equipment for your athlete. Stop by and visit us down at US 75 and off of Bethany Drive. Monkey Sports in Allen, a proud sponsor of Jam Sports.
The Lynch Locker, the official spirit store at Bishop Lynch High School, has everything you need to make your inner friar happy. They offer a large variety of Bishop Lynch spirit wear, including Nike, Champion, and Under Armour items. You'll also find friar-themed gifts and school supplies. Drop in and shop during regular school days as well as select games and special events. Follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for updates on hours, new merchandise sales, and promotions. You can also order online at thelynchlocker.org. The Lynch Locker, show your friar spirit.
It's been a long day without you, my friend. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again. Why'd you have to leave so soon, yeah? Why'd you have to go? Why'd you have to leave me when I needed you the most? 'Cause I don't really know how to tell you without feeling much worse. I know you're in a better place, but it's always gonna hurt. Carry on. Give me all the strength I need to carry on. It's been a long day without you, my friend. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again. How do I breathe without you? I'm feeling so cold. I'll be waiting right here for you till the day you're home. Carry on. Give me all the strength I need to carry on. So let the light guide your way. Yeah. Hold every memory as you go, and every road you take will always lead you home. Oh, it's been a long day without you, my friend. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again. When I see you again, see you again. Oh,
And welcome back. We hope you enjoyed that memorial. It's very sad, of course, Jared, when we lose all these people in the sports world who really we've grown up to watch, we've grown up to listen to. It's very sad nonetheless. But I guess raising our spirits up again. Let's go into the NBA. Okay. So the Golden State Warriors win another championship, right? Now, I was not thinking that the Cavs were going to make it again. I thought it was going to be the Celtics, and honestly, probably going to be the Rockets. But things happen, and those two teams meet in the NBA Finals.
Okay.
Yeah, again. Of course, this isn't going to happen this year, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So then James Harden won the MVP. He had a phenomenal season.
Deservedly so.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Rookie of the Year controversy. Ben Simmons and Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell being in the rookie class last year, phenomenal season. Only problem, Ben Simmons. He was in the rookie class 2 years ago. Now, you're probably asking yourself, well, why would he still be considered rookie? Because he missed his first season, and his first season where he actually played was last year. So there was this whole controversy that was going around of what's the true definition of a rookie. Ben Simmons would actually go on to win that award. Honestly, I thought there was going to be co-rookie of the years.
You know, the NHL and NBA and MLB have like the same kind of the criteria for being classified as a rookie. You have a certain amount of service time that you have before you're not classified as a rookie. Ben Simmons missed the whole year. Therefore, he had all his service time and had 1 year. The NFL, like we talked about, is you get drafted.
Like Patrick
that's
Mahomes'
your year
case.
one.
Played in one game, and then that's technically his rookie year. So then, now this was a signing that no one saw coming, and it was DeMarcus Cousins going to the Warriors for a 1 year, $5 million deal. Now, people may be like, why is he going to the Warriors of all teams? Keep in mind, he did suffer an injury that year, and he needed to bounce back. But at the same time, his former team, the New Orleans Pelicans, also gave him a mega contract, which he declined. Is he ring chasing?
Yes, that's as simple as way to put it. And especially with going to the Warriors. Why couldn't he have gone to, I don't know, Houston, for example? Or, because I'm sure, you could sit there and say that, oh, maybe we'll trade their guy. I mean, there's so many guys, like, especially in the East, he could go to, let's say, the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams that honestly could have used him and gave him money. But going to the Warriors, I think, was a very low blow move by him. And now that he's coming back from his injury, it makes the Warriors even 10 times better. But then another problem comes up in the West. That's LeBron James, as we could say, the Golden State Warrior killer, because literally the Cavs team was LeBron James. He signed with the Los Angeles Lakers for a 4-year, $154 million contract. Jared, I can't even think about how much money that is. That is a lot of money. But, of course, that's very well deserving of the best player in the NBA right now. Then you go to the Cavs. They went from being one of the top contending teams to the worst team in the NBA. Now, I was watching a video a couple days ago, right? And this guy was comparing Michael Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron James. He was saying that Kobe and MJ are like calcium. You need calcium, but you don't need as much of it. LeBron is oxygen for a team, right? Think about it like this. Michael Jordan, when he left the Bulls, right? They lost 2 more games without him. Now that LeBron has left the Cavs, the Cavs have just nosedived into the ground. So really, LeBron is an oxygen for a team, and it even shows with the stats right here: 28 points per game, 7 assists per game, and 7.9 rebounds per game. I mean, what is your opinion on that?
He's the greatest player in the game. Arguably, you could make a case for him being the best one ever. I mean, just look at the way, he's carried himself. He's been playing at a high level for his entire career. Especially, he's gotten better with age.
Now, there's another problem that's coming with the West. This team has actually been surprisingly well this year. I didn't think they were going to be this good, and that's the Oklahoma City Thunder. Paul George spurned the Lakers. Everyone thought Paul George undoubtedly going to the Lakers, right? He goes back to the Thunder for a 4-year, $137 million contract. Now, When he announced this, he was with Russell Westbrook on stage at an event where he announced, "I'm staying in OKC." And then Kawhi Leonard and DeMar DeRozan, they swapped teams. DeMar went to the Spurs and Kawhi Leonard went to the Raptors, basically making the Raptors 10 times better. Now, DeMar DeRozan, of course, phenomenal player to say the least. He has a great story, but Kawhi Leonard, probably a top 5 player right now in the league. Now, the question that a lot of people are saying is he going to go to LA this offseason? And I know we were talking about this, and we agree with the same point, so I'm going to let you take the role of this and just basically state what our perspective of this is.
Honestly, look at the way that the Raptors have been playing this year. They're the best team in the Eastern Conference. Maybe, I mean, we don't know what he feels like, but we both think that it's going to be the same situation as this with Paul George, where everyone was 100% sure that Oklahoma City was just a one-year deal, where I'm just going to leave right in the offseason. Well, we both think that Kawhi's going to end up staying in Toronto.
Now, we also remember what Paul George said. He later said that he felt like that LA didn't want him, because if they wanted him, they would have traded for him at the trade deadline. And then he's like, well, why should I go to a team that really doesn't want me? Now, speaking of spurned, remember a couple years ago, DeAndre Jordan, what he did to the Dallas Mavericks? Well, that all came back around. You know the saying, Jared, what goes around comes around. He finally came back to the Dallas Mavericks on a one-year, $22 million deal. So far this season, he's put up 11 points per game, 14.1 rebounds a game, and 1 block per game. Now, I personally think he's going to re-sign. I don't see why he wouldn't, especially the chemistry that him and Luka Doncic, who we'll get into in a little bit, have been having this year. But then, a really big drama situation that was happening in the NBA for a while with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Jimmy Butler, he didn't really want to still be there. He felt like he was left out. I don't know, Jared, if you remember, he took on the third stringers in practice. He played with them and beat the first stringers. And he said, this is why you need me. And he went to the 76ers. Honestly, a great situation for Jimmy Butler, to say the least. And then going on another free agency move. I know we have a lot of free agency moves here, but there is always a plethora, as you could say, of free agency moves in the NBA. That being Jabari Parker to the Chicago Bulls on a 2-year, $40 million contract. Now, Jared, the question is this a bad move for the Bulls?
Well, and then you also look at it, too. This year has been terrible.
And what happened for that? And
the Bulls fired their head coach, Fred Hoiberg, who had a record of 155 wins to 155 losses. I mean,
you said 155 wins. It was 115 wins.
Oh, my bad.
He just read the script wrong.
But you look at the team; they looked like they had some promise with Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, and then
Lauri Markkanen,
and then
honestly, who I could say could be another Dirk, like Kristaps Porzingis. But how about another big guy from Europe? That being Luka Doncic, drafted by the Dallas Mavericks for Trae Young, who they selected with the 5th pick and gave them their draft pick. Now, a lot of people don't know what that draft pick means. They see a top 3 protected. Here's basically what that means. Basically, if the Dallas Mavericks, and they aren't going to do this season, I can already tell, especially what they've done this year, that basically is saying that if they finish in the top 3 in the draft lottery, right, the NBA is totally different from any other league. In other leagues, your standings display on what you're going to be at the draft. So let's say Cleveland Browns, for example, 0-16 last season, they get the number 1 pick. It's not the same for the NBA. They actually have a little bit of a lottery that really you have a better chance of winning if you're a bad team, but at the same time, everyone almost has an equal chance. So they got Luka Doncic. Now, I personally think he's going to be the Rookie of the Year, and this is why. 18.8 points per game, 6.6 rebounds a game, 4.9 assists per game. No rookie has come even close to those numbers besides DeAndre Ayton, who's the number 1 overall pick.
And he is the Rookie of the Year. I mean, he's talked about all the time. Everywhere I go, he's always talking about exactly. But
Ben Simmons is gonna win Rookie of the Year again.
But no, you look at the way he's played. I mean, he's changed the way the team is.
He is the face of the team.
And especially, I mean, the Mavs, their whole issue is, they play very good at home.
They're 11-2 right now at home. Very good home team.
Yet they've only won 2 or 3 games on the road. I can't remember the number.
They're terrible on the road. But not only that, but they have a very big turnover problem. And this is where I get into my next point. Is Dennis Smith Jr. a part of the plan for the future? Because him and Luka, great teammates nonetheless, but they have the 5th worst turnover ratio in the NBA. And that is a little bit behind Luka and DeAndre Jordan's. So what's your opinion on that? Do you think Dennis Smith is here for the stay, or do the Mavericks need to trade him away?
Well, quite frankly, he needs to be traded, especially when, later you get into the free agents. You have people who are better than he is. I mean, you could, I don't know if they would offer the money, but, you could make a serious run at Thompson or Kemba. I mean, look at the way, Doncic's playing. Maybe they might want to come play with him.
But the question then is, because I like your idea for Klay Thompson, because I truly think the Mavericks need to play Luka at the 1. He is definitely a 1. Because he really has that leadership that not many players in this league have, and especially only being 19 years old. Jared, he's 1 year older than us. That's insane. Especially, and we even knew he was going to be a great player coming out of Europe. Youngest player in the EuroLeague to win MVP, led his team to a championship. I mean, we knew this dude was the real deal. Now, this happened later on in the season. Draymond Green and KD had some beef when being on the Warriors, and that kind of led the Warriors to have kind of a down slope for a little while. They're picking it up now. The question, Jared, though, could this beef be the reason why their whole dynasty falls apart?
Well,
because we know they're going to lose DeMarcus Cousins. Steve Kerr's already said that his job was to bring him in, get him back to his full potential, and then get him a max contract somewhere else. Now you have to think about this. Who's going to stay, right? Are they going to throw money at KD? Because if they throw money at KD, then who are you going to keep? Draymond? Are you going to keep Steph? Are you going to keep Klay? I mean, really, what's going to happen? Because I personally think in the next couple of years, the Warriors dynasty, now, they're still going to be a top team in the NBA, regardless. But are they going to have their 4 superstars? I don't think so.
No, I mean, especially with this beef, Kevin Durant, there's no way he's coming back.
You don't think?
No way.
Really? Well, I mean, we are going to get, you know what? Let's bring it up now. Where do you think he's going to go? Now, I'm personally thinking if he leaves, he's going to go to the Knicks, which is very interesting, Jared, because we were talking a little while ago with Zion Williamson. A couple nights ago, he played a phenomenal game in Madison Square Garden, saying it would be pretty nice to play 41 games here. So is there something we don't know that's going on behind the scenes? Because think about it this way. If you are a prospect for a number 1 pick, there's got to be players talking to you in the NBA. LeBron, I can guarantee, is talking to Zion. I can guarantee KD's probably talking to Zion. I can guarantee probably they are still both talking to RJ. I mean, what does it mean? Do you think he could go anywhere else, or where personally do you see him going?
Well, and I know he wants to go to a team where he can be the guy that controls, everything. He's never really been the one guy. Mm-hmm. Think about it, he's at OKC with Westbrook. Well, here,
I mean, definitely he's the best guy, but at the same time, you're still running the show. You're the co-star, basically.
Yeah, and then, especially at Golden State, you got Steph, Draymond, and Klay. So he's not the best player on that team. So I think he's going to want to go somewhere where he is, the number 1 player. And if he goes to New York, he's going to get money, which I know that's what he's after. And then promise, you're gonna have Kristaps coming off of his injury, and then possibly Zion if the Knicks are bad.
I mean, really, you never know. Now, the Knicks have always been a pretty bad team to say the least, and now they're even looking to get Jabari Parker, who a lot of people are now saying is a bust because he hasn't lived up to that potential yet. But of course, he's still a very, very young player. He still has a lot to prove. But then a couple days ago as well, the Suns, the Grizzlies, and the Wizards made a deal that was going to send Trevor Ariza to the Washington Wizards, and then Kelly Oubre was going to go to Memphis. Now, reason this fell apart, there are 2 guys on the Memphis Grizzlies with the same last name, and I believe it was the Suns that thought they were getting the other guy who they thought they were getting, but the Grizzlies were going to trade them the other guy with the same last name. Now, that trade fell apart within 2 hours, and the next day, Washington and the Suns swap players. Trevor Ariza would end up being with the Wizards, and then Kelly Oubre and Austin Rivers would go to the Suns. Now, we're going to be approaching, it's honestly the best time of year. The trade deadline will be coming very fast, we know that. So who's going to be the big guys in the trade deadline? I personally say it's going to be Gordon Hayward and Kevin Love. Because I don't see, if you're the Cavs, why you'd still have Kevin Love, who's making 5 years, $120 million, and is arguably your star player, why you would still want that if you're going to be tanking.
I mean, honestly, I don't see Gordon Hayward getting traded. The big name is Anthony Davis. I do not think he stays with New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he's got 1 more year on his contract. But would you think that they'd get the most for Davis now, or you wait till next year?
I personally think because
they've got to get something for him. He's going to get traded, whether it's this year or it's next year.
And undoubtedly, if they don't trade him, he's going to leave in free agency. No doubt in my mind. He's had so many pieces to build around. He had DeMarcus Cousins last year. He had Julius Randle this year. He has a lot of pieces really to build around. But I personally think he's definitely going to leave. Whether it be in the trade deadline this year, trade deadline next year, or in free agency next year. So then, Jared, who do you think is going to be personally in the finals? I think we can both agree for the West, it's going to be the Warriors. But there's definitely going to be a new king of the East.
It's to me, if I had to pick, I'm still not sold on anybody yet. But right now, I'd probably say Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean,
Really?
I know Toronto's playing really, really, really good. I understand that, but I mean, we understand the playoffs. I know they got a new coach, a new roster, and all that, but I still think that the Raptors are going to get beat by somebody. If it's going to be the Sixers or it's going to be the Bucks.
Now, I did like how you brought up Raptors having a brand new head coach. He was in the D-League for the longest time and finally got his chance and has honestly been doing a great job with that. Not only just having great players like Kyle Lowry and Kawhi Leonard, but he's really ran a great system overall. But then the question, really, I think everyone, especially in the Dallas area, wants to know, do the Mavericks have a chance at the playoffs, or are they just going to miss like most what they... Now, before a couple years ago, they were a very consistent team. In the past 20 years, I think there were 2 times that they missed the playoffs. The question, though, is can they make the playoffs this year, especially with Luka Doncic?
I mean, yes, it'll have to be a 7th or 8th seed.
Mm-hmm.
The only way that they do make the playoffs is they have to figure out the playing on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can
and
not,
the turnovers. You
cannot only win 2 games, I believe, that they've won this year. You have got to figure out playing on the road because
it's 4 games. They're right now, as we're recording this, is 15 and 15.
But yet, they have got to figure out the road issues because you especially being a lower seed, you're not gonna have home court advantage. So you're gonna be playing the bulk of your games on the road.
And especially if they're an 8 seed, you're going up against teams like the Nuggets, the Thunder, the Warriors, the Lakers. You're going to have to go up against a big team. And especially if you're going into Staples Center, if you're going into Chesapeake Energy Arena, if you're going into Oracle Arena, if you're going into one of those places, it's a very good crowd there. And especially playing against not only the team with that type of caliber talent, but as well an atmosphere like no other, it's going to make that exceptionally hard. Now, the question, though, in the offseason is how are the Mavericks going to try to improve? Are they going to go after a big-name guy? For example, like Kemba Walker or, Klay Thompson? Or are they going to try? I think one of the biggest issues that they got to figure out, where is Harrison Barnes and where is Wesley Matthews on their run? Do they trade them now, get some stuff for them, or do they try to get Wesley on a lower contract? And when Harrison Barnes comes off his contract, get him on a lower contract. Because look, do I think Harrison Barnes is a great player? Yes. Do I think he's worth that money? No. Going on to Wesley Matthews, when they got him, is he worth that money? No. But is he a good player? Somewhat. Because you also have to look at his three-point percentages. There are nights where I'll see he's shooting 2 for 11. Kind of like how Trae Young is doing. He's had a little bit of trouble adapting to the NBA, honestly, but that's kind of like the same thing with Stephen Curry. He had some troubles adapting to the NBA at first, but then finally got his footing. I honestly think Trae Young can be a solid player. He's also had a pretty good defensive season. But I think also, before we end off this, the question is, who is going to be the big free agent this offseason? Or where do you think these guys are going to go? I'm going to list off some names. You tell me where. DeMarcus Cousins. Where do you think he's going to go?
Honestly, I mean,
because I think I know exactly where he's going to go.
where?
I think it's going to be the Wizards. Now, let me explain. A couple years ago, right? Keep in mind, John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, teammates at college. They went to Kentucky. They want to be back together. And John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins have said, yeah, we want to play together again. So I think this is the perfect time, and especially now the Wizards are getting rid of Dwight Howard's contract. This means, especially, they have the money. And they also dumped Kelly Oubre, right? So now you have a lot of money that you could throw at this guy. Next guy, Klay Thompson.
Or, here's my thing with DeMarcus Cousins. I don't know if going to the Wizards is going to make them, like, a really good team, and we don't know how he's going to react.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, what if he goes to the Bucks?
I could see them as a dark horse team, to be honest. Think about that. Giannis and DeMarcus. That would be an insane roster. Especially, arguably, would you consider him the top center in the NBA when fully healthy?
Yes.
And I think we guarantee Giannis Antetokounmpo, whenever LeBron retires, he is the face of the league now. Those two combined would make a stellar offense and a pretty nice defense as well. So then going on Klay Thompson. Do you think he's going to stay with the Warriors, or do you think he's going to...
He'll stay with the Warriors. He'll be the one guy that will stay.
Now, this is an interesting one right here, right? Now, we already talked about KD. We've said where we think he's going to go. The last guy here is Kemba Walker. Now, I could see him staying with the Hornets. I could see the Hornets dishing him out a very big contract because he is their face of the franchise. Great player overall, but does he want to go and try to find something like a ring or be in playoff contention?
I do think that he's not going to stay with the Hornets.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I know they have Lonzo Ball, but I think he goes to the Lakers.
It's very interesting. Now, here's my only concern, right? Think about it like this. LeBron really, really likes Lonzo because what is Lonzo good at? He's good at making plays. He's like a LeBron. He's a floor general. If you don't know what a floor general is, that basically means he runs the entire court. Lonzo has some of the best pass vision and pass IQ I've ever seen in an NBA player. Now, there was a lot of stuff going on last year that everyone thought, oh, he's going to be this bust. Of course, that was because of his scoring. But no one has looked at the underlying factor here with his passing ability. He's almost like a Rajon Rondo. Not as bad of a cancer as Rajon Rondo, but, I mean, honestly, Lonzo is a really good teammate overall. If LeBron is telling you that he likes you, that's really good.
Yeah.
Especially, that's almost like a James Jones, right? A couple years ago, he's stuck with LeBron. He has the same amount of rings as LeBron does. Why? Because LeBron liked him as a teammate. And that's good if you're on LeBron's good side.
And, with Kemba, I know things never go as you think.
Right.
But, the way I think things will turn out for the Lakers is they're going to end up with Anthony Davis.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be either them or Boston, but I think the Lakers will.
And if somehow Kawhi decides to go, now it's going to be one or the other, right?
Yeah.
Unless next season the Lakers decide, hey, let's go for him in the trade deadline.
Personally, I mean, I do think Kemba's going to go to the Lakers, and then I do think it'll be Davis. Now, who would you rather have if you're starting a team?
Mm-hmm.
Would you have Davis or Kawhi?
To be honest with you, I would say, okay, here's my answer, right? Kawhi, right? Think about it like this. Kawhi is, I'd personally put him as a top 3 player in the entire league. Why? Because he is an amazing two-way player. Amazing on the offensive side and phenomenal on the defensive side. I personally would take Kawhi. Now, there's a very close second with Anthony Davis. If they can somehow get both of them on the same roster, now, of course, they wouldn't be able to keep them because you're already throwing this much money at LeBron. Right?
And then on top of that, you're going to have contracts that are going to need to be paid, whether you're going to want to pay Lonzo, Kuzma. I mean, you're going to have to...
Brandon Ingram. You got a lot of these contracts that you have to think of for the future. And guys like Josh
The
Hart.
other thing is, even if you know that you're going to get Davis, those guys aren't going to be on the team.
Right.
Whether you're going to have to give up Brandon Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
You may have to give up Lonzo if you...
You might have to give up a guy like Josh Hart that's done really great things for the Lakers off the bench. So I think before we get a little bit more carried away, I think we're going to end the NBA segment right here. Of course, that was our hot seat for what honestly, I could say that we both love to talk about it because there's just so much news, so much drama, and so many things that could happen in the NBA that make it such an interesting topic to talk about. But we're going to go to commercial break. We're going to hear a word again from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to be looking at the NHL season, what's to come for that, and as well the MLB season. So don't wait. We will be right back in a second. Now, don't wait. Stay right there. How about that? Stay right there. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Jason with Lacrosse Monkey. Are you looking for a place to shop for your next athletic season? Monkey Sports is here to help. Whether you're looking for baseball, hockey, or lacrosse gear, if you can dream it, we got it. We provide both the latest and best in the market equipment for your athlete. Stop by and visit us down at US 75 and off of Bethany Drive. Monkey Sports in Allen, a proud sponsor of Jam Sports.
The Lynch Locker, the official spirit store at Bishop Lynch High School, has everything you need to make your inner friar happy. They offer a large variety of Bishop Lynch spirit wear, including Nike, Champion, and Under Armour items. You'll also find friar-themed gifts and school supplies. Drop in and shop during regular school days, as well as select games and special events. Follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for updates on hours, new merchandise sales, and promotions. You can also order online at thelynchlocker.org. The Lynch Locker, show your friar spirit.
And welcome back. That was, Jared, a very long segment right there. We didn't realize we talked for that long, but of course, when you're talking about an interesting topic, you want to keep talking about it.
Especially when there's a lot of it, too.
Oh, definitely. That was, like, if there's that much stuff that we had to talk about in that amount of time. There's a lot of things that go on in the NBA. But now let's go to a topic that, doesn't have as much, but there's still a lot of it. That being the NHL. Washington Capitals, they finally won the Stanley Cup against the Vegas Golden Knights, who were the expansion team last year. And really, no one expected Vegas to have that good of a season.
But then on top of that, Vegas, which it was truly amazing what they did, especially early on in the year, given that they lost Marc-Andre Fleury, their number one goalie, and then they lost their second goalie. Then they lost their third goalie. And then they were on their fourth and fifth goalies by the time December came
That's
around.
your AHL and ECHL goalies.
Yeah, and then, Washington, Ovechkin finally gets a Stanley Cup.
Well-deserved, by the way. Well-deserved.
Does that put him over Sidney Crosby?
Honestly, now, in this generation, those two guys are the best players, hands down. I personally think Ovi is better overall.
Me too.
But if you look at the accolades, Crosby has more accolades, right? But if I'm going with the overall guy, I'm taking Ovi. So I think winning a cup that puts him ahead of Crosby, no doubt in my mind. Then we go into probably the biggest free agency signing of the entire NHL, really almost the only one. That being John Tavares going to the Toronto Maple Leafs on a 7-year, $77 million contract. Now, this was his childhood team. I mean, that has to be amazing to finally be able, when you grow up, you love this team so much, and then the reality comes where you get to play for this team.
But, that's all great and all that, but there's some issues that come with
no doubt, especially for the Maple Leafs in the future.
Because when you look at it, in hockey, they don't make a lot of money. Okay, well, it's still quite a bit of money for us. But, let's go back to look at basketball real quick. Jabari Parker, who's not a great player.
He's a decent player, but he's not your LeBron tier.
But $20 million. John Tavares is one of the best players in the league. And he's making $11 million. Now, with the NHL, the salary cap is set at roughly $84, $85 million. Meaning you got to field a whole team with $85 million. And $11 million of that is already tied up to John Tavares.
And then you got another
And then
guy.
William Nylander at 6. And then next year, what they're going to have again is one of the best players. Again, Austin Matthews.
Who's an up-and-coming
He's
player.
going to need a $10 million contract.
Oh, no
and
doubt.
then Mitch Martin is going to need 9. You're tied up all in that. You're right at about 60% of your salary is tied up between those 4 players.
I mean, really, this is going to spell this basically spells trouble for the Toronto Maple Leafs. to say
What
the
they
least.
hope for is,
that they'll take a pay cut.
They have to. Well, I don't know about all of them doing that, but like, what you hope for is, you sign all these guys to these contracts, but you got to get a cup or 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's looking very identical to what the Blackhawks have been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Is you look at it, especially now. Now we're going to the downhill.
And we were going to be talking about that, so I guess let's get into it.
Well,
Chicago, being one of the top teams in, I mean, you look back in this decade,
They've been
Chicago's
the team
been
of the decade.
top, basically a top team in the decade, and now they're going on that decline, and that's the reason. It's because of these contracts. You look at guys like Jonathan Taves, Patrick Kane.
He's and especially with them being my favorite team, it's been kind of hard to watch because just 4 years ago in 2015, we won the Stanley Cup against the Tampa Bay Lightning. That was just 4 years ago, and it's gone downhill very fast.
Oh, you want to talk about a long time ago? Dallas Mavericks winning the NBA championship 7 years ago.
But and with the Blackhawks, I mean, even if you look into our cup runs, what we had the most was Patrick Kane.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the best player in the league. That's Connor McDavid. But he does have the chance if he plays as he does. Like you know how he plays. He's one of the
100%.
He may be the best American-born player ever, putting him ahead of Mike Modano.
Ooh,
I know people don't like that.
I'm a Mike Modano fan. He's the one that got me into hockey, but I could definitely see it nonetheless.
All it is with watching Kane, I mean, you just look at the way he carries the team. I mean, you got Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook, and Corey Crawford is also a great goalie. But the contracts, and really, it's worth it. You know this was going to come when you were Chicago, when you sign all these guys.
It's the same thing that's going to happen to the Warriors.
Exactly.
Same exact deal.
Exactly. And, the Maple Leafs, they haven't won a cup since 1969. They've got to get at least 2 or 3 cups to be to where, okay, this was worth it.
Mm-hmm. And then before we go on, we're going to talk about Buffalo going from the worst team in the NHL to a playoff team. Have to mention Evander Kane and Erik Karlsson going to the Sharks. I mean, they have turned the Sharks around. Think about this defense. Erik Karlsson, Brent Burns.
Yeah.
Solid defensive line right there.
Yeah.
And you also have Evander Kane. Now, Evander Kane has had some problems in the locker room and all of that, but at the same time, he is an amazing hockey player.
The Sharks are loaded. And, Erik Karlsson, my opinion, best player in the best defenseman in the league.
Hands down, best defenseman.
And, you've got guys who've come out of nowhere. I mean, Joe Pavelski, he's been established for a while, but he was a 7th-round pick. A 7th-round pick. And look at the way the player is.
And going back into our generation type player, Joe Thornton. This is a guy that we both watched growing up. Of course, now he's way on the decline because he's getting older.
Yeah.
But when he was in his prime, the man was unstoppable.
Yeah, he was a player before, he was already a star in the league before we were even born.
Mm-hmm.
And then, last year, the worst team in the league, Buffalo Sabres.
2 stars you got coming up here.
And then they're going to the playoff. They probably will be a playoff team. They are a good team, led by a guy who we both met.
Yeah.
And Jack Eichel.
Thanks to one of our amazing sponsors.
Yeah. And, Jack Eichel, look at the way that he's changed the team. I mean, he even made, he was the guy that was picked right after Connor McDavid. And, Connor McDavid got a trip to the Western Conference Finals a few years back. But it looks like right now that Jack's got the upper hand on him. And, what really has changed, Jack's got a big part of it, but it's selecting Rasmus Dahlin, the defenseman. Compared him to, Nick Lidstrom from the Red Wings.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that he's being compared to are legends.
Mm-hmm.
And then, moving on, you got to get local in, too.
Of course you got to get local.
The Dallas Stars.
Mm-hmm.
Guy that's changed that D corps as well. Miro Heiskanen.
100%. You pair him with John Klingberg, who's also, I would consider him a top 3 defenseman in the entire league. Having that, especially as your future, is a very good piece. And I remember, we watched his NHL debut. Right away, he was making an impact. Right away, he was getting that puck around. He was doing so much for the Stars that we haven't seen that energy for them. And the question then, before we move on to MLB, is are the Stars Cup contenders again? Or will they be Cup contenders in the future?
To be honest, I think the window has passed.
Really? You think the window's passed?
Yes. And it's always been the issue is if we're in the other conference, honestly, I would say yes. If we're in
it's like the Dallas Mavericks, for example.
Yes. I mean, if you look at it,
a stacked West.
You look at the way the division has been for the past, 10 years. St. Louis has always been good.
Of course. 100%.
Nashville is amazing. And then Chicago, and then you've got Dallas. And then Colorado. Look, Colorado this year. Their top line of Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen,
and then a couple years ago, they were also a bad team.
And they have 50 points. They have the top 3 point getters in the league, all on one line. But the Stars, honestly, they're finally getting healthy. And you got John Klingberg back on the 20th. You're starting to get your D-corps back. But here's the one thing that the Stars have an issue with, is losing to teams that they should be beating.
And what team did they just lose to?
Yeah, they
the
lost
Chicago
to the
Blackhawks.
And Kane scored 2 goals. And that's one thing.
And I'm pretty sure you predicted that too.
No, yeah. And the whole thing is with the Stars, and when I was especially being at the game, the Hawks gave them so many chances to score, and they just didn't get it done.
I honestly, the Dallas Stars, it's a team that is up and down, right? Last year, phenomenal start, couldn't finish. That's been the storyline for each season. Ever since really they won the Stanley Cup, and 2000, of course, that exception, they really haven't been able to finish. They've gotten to the peak, whether that be mid-season or the playoffs, and then they just nosedive.
They cool off at the
They cool off at the worst time possible. Now, if it was the other way around, perfect timing. But that's also like what we're going to get into here in a second with baseball. MLB. This team is a great example of this. Boston Red Sox, right? They're at the peak of their team, went on downfall for a while, but then at the right time, when they started to play the Houston Astros, they picked it right back up. And that allowed them to win in 6 games versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. And you got to feel for the Dodgers. We as Ranger fans know the feeling of losing back-to-back World Series. I mean, it's not a good thing. It stinks.
And Boston's been the best team in the league since Game 1.
100%.
I mean, you look at what they got. I mean, you had the MVP winner in Mookie Betts, then J.D. Martinez,
who could have been a Triple Crown winner,
and then the pitching. David Price finally solved his postseason issues.
Oh, and what was that issue? Fortnite?
No, he had not won a single playoff game in his entire career. But then they had, I think, one of the best pitchers in baseball, if not the best, in Chris Sale.
100%. Especially the storyline ending of him coming in after his injury that set him back a while, coming in, closing out the game. What a better way to do it.
And then another guy who none of us, we knew he was a great player when he got traded to Milwaukee. But Christian Yelich, I did not expect him to be this good.
You made it seem like he's on the Red Sox. No, he's on the Brewers. He's on the Brewers, just letting y'all know.
Christian Yelich easily was the best player in baseball.
In the second half.
Yeah.
No doubt in the second half.
He was good in the second half, but he really secured the MVP in the second half. Consistent on everything. And truly, he is the big reason the Brewers were where they were.
Oh, 100%. And now you look at the two future faces of the league, who I personally think, Juan Soto and Ronald Acuna Jr. Of course, Acuna Jr. won the Rookie of the Year, but these two guys have shown their team promise, and especially Ronald Acuna. Brewers and the Braves had a very solid season. The Braves were way ahead of schedule, especially on what happened. And even so, recently signing former AL MVP in 2015, Josh Donaldson. If he is healthy, this might be the best signing.
Well, and then,
besides Harper and Machado.
And, and also with Harper, in my case, Juan Soto may be the guy that could replace Harper. There are other guys that, the Nationals could field that, I don't see any way that Harper stays in Washington, but, they have people out in the outfield free agency that they can sign, that they could go get an A.J. Pollock, go get a Carlos Gonzalez or somebody like that who will make the outfield seem better, and you have Soto in left. But with Josh Donaldson, that to me is the offseason deal right there.
And then, of course, you have other deals, like, of course, Edwin Diaz and Robinson Cano going to the Mets, Edwin Encarnacion going to the Mariners, and then wherever Machado and Harper decide to land in free agency. I've heard rumors of them both probably signing near February around that time. But the big question, especially locally for us, what are the Rangers doing? Now, of course, they're getting a brand new ballpark. They start construction on Globe Life Field. It looks already amazing. What I've seen, some designs.
They've already have made tremendous progress on the stadium. They've already poured almost all the concrete that they've needed to pour, and I believe now they're working on sheetrock and getting all the suites done.
Now, of course, going in a new ballpark, you need a great team.
Yeah.
But you also think about this. The Rangers are in a rebuild mode right now. So then why do you sign Lance Lynn to a 3-year, $30 million contract, and then you decide, oh, no, we're going to go into the rebuild, trade Drew Robinson, Alex Claudio, and Jurickson Profar? What is JD doing? What is John Daniels doing right now?
I mean, he's done, I don't know what to say. There's only one trade that he's done that's benefited us, and that's when we got Elvis Andrus and Natali Feliz for Mark Teixeira.
Oh, and before we keep on going with that, Andrew Miller, of course, a couple years ago, probably the best closer, undoubtedly, for the Indians. Finally signed. He went to the St. Louis Cardinals. Honestly, a pretty nice signing for the Cardinals. Now you have an amazing guy in the bullpen, and as well, you have
Paul Goldschmidt, who
100%.
I mean, and that's the thing that we were talking about. Earlier we were talking. The NL Central, to me, I think will be the best division in baseball.
I could definitely see it.
Because you've got the Brewers, which they're going to be good. The Cubs are going to be good with Javier Baez, Chris Bryant, and all them. And then the Cardinals are doing this because they're sort of a team that's like a 500 team, like what I'm trying to say, and
basically the median.
Yeah,
team.
They want to make it to where they are somewhat of a wild card team, and they look like it.
Honestly, with the additions of Andrew Miller and Paul Goldschmidt, undoubtedly I could see them as a playoff team. And then going back on to what JD's doing. Now, I understand you want to go in this rebuild, right? And he wants to build a farm system. What has he done, though? Got rid of the entire farm system.
Honestly, if you look at it, I mean, doing it the way JD wants to do it is going to take forever.
Oh, 100%.
And
I personally think the Rangers need to fire JD.
Yeah. Not JD Martinez. I
mean, they should probably, trade for him.
Yeah.
You never know.
But see, the thing with John Daniels is you look at the trades that have been made. I mean, the Jonathan Lucroy trade. Was he at the time a need?
Did it help?
Yes.
Did it help at the time? But he didn't think of the long-term scenario.
They did not need to give up as much as they did. The other thing is, Matt Garza was not a fantastic addition. Who did they give up?
Kyle Hendricks.
Who?
An addition to the Cubs in their lineup, in their bullpen, or not their bullpen, in their rotation. That really was a key piece to their World Series run. I mean, there's also a lot of guys like Carlos Beltran. He got rid of a lot of guys there. So what JD did was basically and this is a great analogy that I heard a long time ago, right? He wanted to make big splashes. But what happens when you make those big splashes? You lose a lot of water that's in the pool, right? If you make those little splashes, you still have a good amount. But when you make those big splashes, eventually you're going to run out of water in the pool, and that's where the Rangers are at right now. And that's their biggest problem.
Ultimately, here's my thing, is I know the owners have a new ballpark. I know that. But last year and this year, you can field a good team through free agency. I'm not saying that you need to go give $400 million to Bryce Harper. I mean, would that be nice? Yeah.
Oh, well, heck yeah.
But
there are guys like that are, your small guys nothing like Lance Lynn. That was just a bad contract overall, in my opinion. But guys that, are good role players for their teams, but not that big name free agent that you hear.
Because here, the issue I have is, the new ballpark's going to be ready in 2020, but after, I think, once it hits June, July, I think you're going to have the same attendance that you would in the ballpark right now. Because you're not going to have a guy that puts butts in a chair. You're just going to rely on, when the Yankees coming, when the Red Sox are coming, when the Astros are coming. You don't have anybody that's going to put butts in a chair. It's not Joey Gallo.
Oh,
no. That's BP
I mean,
purposes.
even though he hits monster
BP
home runs,
purposes.
but no, yeah, of course, that's BP purposes. But before we move on, of course, we have to talk about really the big thing that happened this summer, being the World Cup. So I don't know if you want to go in a little bit about this. France beat Croatia in the final. England had also a very big run.
England was not. They were projected to get past the group stage, but they were not projected to go as far as the semifinal as they did. I mean, you were led by Harry Kane, who I believe is one of the best players in the world.
I can agree with that.
And you're led by Kane, who scored a goal in almost every single game that England played. But then you also had to rely on good goalkeeping by Jordan Pickford, who held the load. And then now soccer's sort of changing to where it's not a Messi or Ronaldo. I mean, and speaking of Ronaldo, he left Real Madrid for Italian Serie A team Juventus. But it's going back, Messi and Ronaldo. It's no longer that anymore.
Even though they're still big name players in the game, no doubt. But now it's like going back to the MLB. Ron Acuna Jr. and Juan Soto, they're becoming the future faces. Giannis Antetokounmpo, that same thing. Jack Eichel, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, same thing. And there's going to be probably a new face to the soccer world.
You now, there's so many good players in the world. But through this World Cup, the new guy who is going to be the next Messi or Ronaldo, whoever you care to choose, Kylian Mbappe.
And he just turned 20.
Turned 20, and he's won a World Cup. I mean, and people don't agree, but I would put Harry Kane, I would take him over Mbappe. Not because of age, but if you think about it. Harry Kane excels in the best soccer league in the world. Mbappe plays in the French League One, which is just PSG.
Yeah.
And you know what? If Mbappe can do the same success in the Serie A or the Premier League, then that would change my mind. But until then, he's a great player. He's going to be a great player for days to come.
And I think we're now going to go to one more commercial break here. One last word from all of our sponsors. When we come back, there will be the top 10 plays of the entire year across all sports, including soccer, basketball, football, you name it, it might be in there. And then we're going to do a little bit of segment that we introduced last year, but to what's in store for 2019 and what to look forward to and watch. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Hey, this is Jason with Lacrosse Monkey. Are you looking for a place to shop for your next athletics season? Monkey Sports is here to help. Whether you're looking for baseball, hockey, or lacrosse gear, if you can dream it, we got it. We provide both the latest and best in the market equipment for your athlete. Stop by and visit us down at US 75 and off of Bethany Drive. Monkey Sports in Allen, a proud sponsor of Jam Sports.
The Lynch Locker, the official spirit store at Bishop Lynch High School, has everything you need to make your inner friar happy. They offer a large variety of Bishop Lynch spirit wear, including Nike, Champion, and Under Armour items. You'll also find friar-themed gifts and school supplies. Drop in and shop during regular school days, as well as select games and special events. Follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for updates on hours, new merchandise sales, and promotions. You can also order online at thelynchlocker.org. The Lynch Locker, show your friar spirit.
Bielitsa looking. Bogdanovich, 3 seconds. Bogey for the win! Bogdanovich!
Pack 'em up and send 'em home, Grand Napier!
If you don't like that, you don't like Kings basketball!
Kamara isolated again.
Kamara's out to the right. Breeze looking left. He's got room. Across the line of scrimmage. He goes into the end zone. Touchdown. Drew Brees.
That late in the play, no one's open. Great job by the Falcons. But you're going to see Benjamin Watson. He's going to come along this end line, and he's going to go out of bounds. Drew Brees sees the referee, potentially throws the hat. He doesn't have an eligible receiver. Drew Brees doesn't want to run the ball.
Let's see who comes out here, whether they run a single screen or whether they run a staggered screen. All right, here comes, they're looking for the switch.
They get it on Austin. Butler with 4 seconds left. Butler denied by James, and Smith calls a timeout.
Now, I want to tell you, LeBron James came from nowhere to get that shot. And it was perfectly played by Minnesota and a great move by Butler. But LeBron James came from the other side of the lane to get that shot.
Dillon up in the backfield. A shovel pass caught by Hunt. Hook a tackle of Roby. Hurdles him at the 5. Counted for a touchdown. Holy Toledo. 23-yard touchdown run.
'72 extra base hits for Trevor Story, third most in the National League.
2-2 is clobbered. Oh my! Onto the concourse, gone. Touch of all time. A monster mash from Trevor Story.
People aren't going to believe this when they see this ball where it goes, because what happened to Trevor after he hit it. Watch this on this swing. Watch him fall, Drew. His spikes leave. That's 110 miles an hour off the bat as he watches it go onto the concourse from his backside. Are you kidding me?
The Penguins scoring in. It's along the boards, but Crosby digs it out, tries to feed. Gensel knocked out in the air. Crosby, unbelievable goal! He flipped it up to himself and then into the back of the net. Sidney Crosby, are you kidding me?
Got it.
Here it is. Corner, Luka! Goes in! How did he do it? How did he do it? That is Luka magic!
Off with a crack of the bat with 2 outs. Kimbrel deals. Bregman in the air, left field. Benintendi dives, and he makes the catch! Oh, what a play! Game saver, Andrew Benintendi.
2:05 to go. Fleury at the edge of the crease, and now the hash marks as it's still back in. And Santa Claus. Oh, it didn't go! It was tucked with a wide open net.
In Washington, they'll be calling this a save.
And welcome back to our year in review. Before we end it all off, we have to give kind of like we said, a thing that we introduced last year, and that's what to look forward to in 2019. So, Jared, how about you start right off since it has to do with your favorite team?
New Year's Day, and this is a tradition, an annual tradition that's always been on New Year's Day, is the NHL Winter Classic. It is an outdoor game, and it is between the Boston Bruins and my Chicago Blackhawks at Notre Dame Stadium. It is the coolest thing that you could see. I mean, how crazy it is that, you can build a field like that. Like a rink on rink? Yeah.
I mean, of course you can build a field, Jared, but you got to build the rink on top of it. Then going on to January 7th, the NCAA Football National Championship game, which will be between one of the 4 teams in the playoff, whether that be Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, or OU.
And then on February 3rd, you have Super Bowl 53.
And of course, as you know, we're going to be doing a recap on that, so stay tuned for that. Honestly, our favorite time of the year. Amazing commercials, amazing game, a decent halftime performance here and there. Then going on from March 19th to April 8th, March Madness will be there. We'll see if R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson live up to that hype and win the national championship.
And then April 11th through April 14th, the Masters, the golf tournament, the first major Oh, they changed the calendar. It used to be the first major of the year.
Then you go on to May 2nd. You have the Kentucky Derby. Of course, that is probably the biggest horse race in the entire world. Of course, then you have Ascot. You have all the other big races, but everyone really, watches that Kentucky Derby.
And then last year we had the Men's World Cup. Well, June 7th through July 7th, you'll have the Women's World Cup, which will be held in France.
Now, this is going to be a little bit interesting this year, Jared. Last time around, we saw the U.S. women's team dominate. I mean, dominate. In the championship, they played Japan, right?
Mm-hmm. Carly Lloyd scored 3 goals.
What was the final score to that game again?
I can't remember, but
I'm pretty sure it was like 5-0 or 7-0. Yeah. It was a pretty bad blowout. But now a lot of countries are starting to put more money into their women's soccer programs. So definitely this year, I honestly would say this is a big thing to watch. Yeah. It's going to be interesting what teams come up this year besides the U.S. women's team.
And then as well in June, the NBA Finals, and then a Blackhawks-less Stanley Cup Final.
Okay. All right, Jared. Then you have on July 6th through July 28th, the Tour de France. I cannot believe that people will bike for that long. It's a long time. Now, of course, they have to stop. But biking for 22 days straight, I would be worn out by the first day. First, give it 2 hours and I'd be worn out by them. But again, these are pros. They have trained for this all their life. They train year after year for this. So, of course, they're prepared for it.
And then on October 20th, it could be October 20th. For sure, it starts on October 20th.
100%.
But we don't know if it's to the October 30th. The World Series.
Mm-hmm. That'll be interesting this year, who we see. There's a lot of teams that we don't know about yet. It really all depends on where Harper and Machado sign. That's really going to be the big predictions. And then to finally end off the year, from December 14th to the 31st, are going to be your college football bowl games. Of course, we all love watching those, especially to root on our favorite team. And Jared, by then, we're going to be in college. We're going to be rooting for our own teams in those bowl games. So that's very interesting what's going to be happening from there. So Jared, I think this is going to recap this year's edition of our Pro Sports Year in Review. Of course, we want to give one more shout out to our sponsors who have sponsored us throughout, that being Monkey Sports and The Locker. Now, a pretty big thing that's going to be happening through The Locker, our sponsor, we're going to be releasing some Jam Sports merchandise. We've wanted to do this for the longest time, but we are releasing some pretty cool Jam Sports merchandise that will be available for purchase here right after Christmas. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be advertising almost the crap out of that during the entire year. It's going to be about for a month. We're going to be advertising it and making sure you know. And there's going to be a link. Don't worry. We'll put that in our Twitter bio, our Instagram bio, and on YouTube videos, just to make sure that you get out there and you're able to buy some Jam Sports merchandise. Because, Jared, I mean, who doesn't want to buy some Jam Sports merchandise? I know I do.
And I do too.
I mean, because we kind of...
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a dumb comment by us. But again, we just want to say thank you once again. If you have made it this far in the video, we thank you for all that you've done, because without you, the audience, we wouldn't be able to live this dream. Of course, Jared, I think you could agree with me. Our goal one day is to become sports broadcasters, whether that be sports analysts or on the radio. And really, we've gotten to live this dream for 3 years, really 4 years if you include our sports broadcasting in the sports media department. So, Jared, of course, I want to thank you from myself, Max Danielsen.
And Jared Hedges.
Wishing you, as always, Jared, if you know it, say it along, a good morning, a good afternoon, or good evening to you, wherever or whenever you may be watching. Thank you.
Get it.